Have you ever noticed that when you create a helpful method for learning something, it may be a benefit to you, but a drawback to someone else? Well, that's what Lincoln and Lenny found out in the episode I'm going to talk about today. So join me as I, SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. Cue the intro. Today's episode is Driving Ms. Hazy. In this episode, Lincoln tries to help Lenny get her driver's license so that way he and his other sisters don't have to keep doing favors for Lori in exchange for rides. For the longest time, this used to be my favorite Lenny episode. It was both a good showcasing of her ditzy yet lovably innocent personality, and it showed one of her vulnerabilities, and a relatable one at that depending on who you are, which would be she can't drive to save her life. She couldn't even comprehend just the basics of driving a lawnmower, and that was made very clear when her younger siblings set up a car simulator in their attempt to help her get a driver's license. However, it turned out she was in fact smart enough to figure out how a car works thanks to Lincoln teaching her in a manner she could easily understand. Basically using Lenny-type words like go-go boot and white shoe when referring to a gas pedal and brake respectively. This odd method was a clever way of demonstrating that Lenny is not entirely empty-headed, and if pushed correctly can display a lot of intelligence and confidence in overcoming something both scary and maybe at one time impossible. Her siblings were very supportive in helping her, although they were mostly acting that way because they were growing fed up with having to do whatever Lori wanted them to do if it meant getting a car ride. This brings me to my only negative of the episode, which would be Lori. I'm not really annoyed with her taking advantage of the fact she was the only street legal sibling and using that fact to get what she wanted, since it plays right into the bossy and situation controlling character she is. What aggravated me the most was how she was willing to sabotage her own sister's attempt to become street legal just after she developed the skills and confidence to pass her upcoming test. As a result of making Lenny listen to a poor driving instructional audio tape while she slept, her sister ended up failing yet again, and it was all because Lori believed Lenny getting a license would lead to no one needing her for anything ever again. I can understand a little bit of what Lori was feeling during her revelation, since she felt she still wanted to be of use to her siblings for as long as she could. However, her attitude towards Lenny learning to drive was overly condescending and not even one bit supportive compared to the rest of the family. In a rather smug way, she openly insulted Lenny by saying she would fail no matter who or what would be used to teach her, meaning she had no faith in her own sister trying to do better in her life, and her underhanded scheme was to make sure that would happen. Plus, given Lenny's reckless driving history, it's even more baffling Lori could have conveniently blanked on the very real possibility of her audio tape causing her sister to get hurt behind the wheel. So yeah, Lori was willing to risk physical harm to her own sister if it meant keeping the car keys to herself. That's pretty harsh, even for her. And you know, when you think about it even further, wouldn't Lenny becoming a driver actually be a good thing instead of Lori assuming it would be bad? Seeing how much Lori loves talking and texting on her phone, you would think Lenny driving her siblings around could free up a lot of free time for Lori so she can do more of what she wants, thus spreading out those car responsibilities more evenly and becoming less of a burden on one person to do it all. I'm quite surprised Lori wasn't smart enough to come to that conclusion. But regardless, Lori still confessed to her wrongdoings and was willing to make it up to Lenny by personally teaching her how to drive, albeit not very well. And of course, this episode included a few highlight moments. There was Lenny in her driving outfit that made her look like a green version of the classic Hanna-Barbera character Penelope Pitstop. We also can't forget how adorable Lily looked in that squirrel costume. Then there was Lenny learning to drive by playing Lincoln's video game and then failing the real driving test because she tried to copy what the game did. And lastly, Lenny mentioned how Lori wanted her to make her bed, and she thought that was strange because she assumed Lori already had one. When Lenny said she was going to make Lori's bed, she was literally making a new bed. Now that's what I call craftsmanship with a comedic twist, and only a character like Lenny could have pulled that off without even trying. Overall, despite the presentation of Lori and how her selfish and potentially harmful plot to keep her own status quo when it came to driving her siblings around brought the episode down, everything else was still very much entertaining. Lenny and Lincoln had their fun moments together, the remaining 8 sisters were very helpful and supportive in Lincoln and Lenny's goal, and the story did a decent job of demonstrating how you can learn to do just about anything if you just so happen to have a special code word system. This may no longer be my favorite Lenny episode following what happens in Season 6, where we get some closure on what this episode first established, but for what it's worth, this episode was, and still is, mostly great from start to finish. With that said, I give Driving Miss Hazy an 8 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of Driving Miss Hazy. So I gotta ask, what did you guys think of this episode? Sound off in the comments below, and be sure to click that subscribe button for more Loud House related content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.